Check out that sunset. At a wedding here in Hamilton, Ontario. Hopefully you can hear me. I get asked this question a lot. What kind of content should I make? And despite the fact that this channel has literally like very few followers, and I thank you all so much for the people that are following this channel, I've been consulting people on social for like a decade, and I just haven't really given it my 150% because for a lot of reasons, which could be a totally different video. But I did a training the other day for members of the Strategy Lab, which is my client community. And I was talking about the difference between being a content creator, an influencer, or a person of influence. And how over the years I've realized that this is a really important distinction to make when it comes to figuring out what kind of content to make. Because if you try to make the wrong kind for what you're trying to do, it's going to be really challenging. And so really, as I was kind of putting together the presentation, I realized that you can basically be different things. There can be times when you're a content creator, there's times when you could be an influencer, and there's times when you are a person of influence. And the difference is, in my opinion, the content creator is just like, you're trying to get the largest audience possible. You're trying to make viral stuff. You're trying to make photos just for the sake of photos. You're trying to, whether it's comedy, whether it's acting, you're making what we call content, popular stuff that has the ability to resonate with a lot of people, like hundreds of thousands of people, basically. That's my impression of a content creator. And I think you can do really, really well with that. You know, making stuff that is very on trend, music, very like using trending music, very deliberate in the fact that it's for content's sake. Now, the second thing that you can do when you're making content is what I'd call the influencer, which I've been at times as well. Sometimes I'm a content creator, sometimes I'm what I'm calling the influencer, which is basically you are creating an audience to then monetize that space. Wow, there's a rabbit over there. That's really dope. So you're then trying to monetize that space. So basically you are having people pay you to shout them out. You are doing what quote unquote brand deals. For instance, Nike asked me to join one of their run clubs at one point, and part of the deal was that I posted about it on my social media. I did one story and I would do something on my feed. That's being an influencer. And I think you can go from content creator to influencer. Some people want to do that. They're like, I'm putting out all this stuff with the end goal of doing brand deals, with the end goal of being paid to, again, shout out brands, work with people, whatever it is, right? The last and final one is the person of influence. The difference between that, the influencer and the person of influence, is that the content that you're making, the stuff that you're making, is really to share ideas. It's really to build up an audience of people that share your values and that you can either work with in a one-to-one capacity, a client capacity, maybe buy your products or whatever, but you're not trying to go as viral as possible. You're not trying to get the largest audience possible. And I think there's a very big difference between trying to get the largest audience possible and trying to get a very particular kind of audience. And, sometimes we look at content and we're like, oh, we should make that kind of thing, like that person, it's working for that person to make that kind of content. But I've realized over time that you don't want to get in the wrong lane, because if you get in the wrong lane, you're going to end up with a social media account that you don't even really like, with audiences and subscribers that you don't really like. So my argument here is be very deliberate in what kind of content you make. Be very deliberate in the outcome that you want to have. So like personally, I'm much more the person of influence. I get reached out by brands on a regular basis and they're like, hey, can you shout this out? I don't really look at those messages, because my main purpose is to communicate with you here and get on the same page about what we're trying to do, which is have high profit businesses that are easy to manage and that are fun and that bring us some level of joy and time freedom with our families and things like that. Like, I want to communicate communicate ideas that I'm learning in the field that could help you do that same thing, regardless of what kind of business that you have. So to me, I'm less interested in going viral. I'm less interested in having the most followers possible. And I am much more interested in talking to people who share that idea and share those values and want to have that same thing. So that's why in my mind, I'm the person of influence. Now, again, sometimes I'm a content creator, I'm sharing memes. Sometimes I'm the influencer. Of course, I'm sure do some brand deals at some point like I have in the past. So my main point with this is be very deliberate about what you're trying to do. This works for businesses too. This isn't just about personal brands. A content creator account, I mean, the example I used in this presentation was Prime, you know, that drink by Logan Paul. Like if you look at Prime, the drink company on the Instagram, like it's just pictures of them with the drink, which is great, but it's not giving a POV. It's not giving a point of view. It's not giving a message really. It's just content for the sake of content. Similarly, another example of businesses that are influencers is like 1:37 p.m., which Gary Vee owns or VaynerMedia owns. Similarly, PureWow, like these are Instagram accounts that sell space. So like when you see them post about the Gap is most likely paid for that space. And then lastly, person of influence, a business example of that would be the example I use with Patagonia. Like if you look at Patagonia's account, all their photography, it's like nature and it's outdoors and it's really sharing that mission of let's preserve the planet. Let's, you know, be outside. Let's be grounded. Let's care about nature. Lululemon is another example of that. They'd be the person of influence, except in a business perspective. So next time you ask yourself what kind of content to make, decide which lane you want to be in, what your outcome was, what your goal is, and then drive your content using that outlook. See you in another one. Cheers to your growth.